My name is Selena, and I'm 36 years old. 9 days ago, I sat alone in the hospital waiting room while my 9-year-old son Jordan underwent a 7-hour kidney surgery. No one from my family showed up despite their promises. 3 days after the operation, while Jordan was still recovering, my mother texted me asking for $10,000 for my sister's wedding dress. That moment changed everything. I'd spent my entire life being the reliable one, the responsible daughter who always helped everyone else. Not anymore. Before I tell you how I finally stood up to my family after years of being used, let me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe. If you've ever had to make the difficult choice between family loyalty and self-respect. I was always the dependable child in our middle-class Michigan home. From as early as I can remember, my parents, Margaret and Daniel, made it clear that my younger sister Amber was their priority. When Amber wanted ballet lessons, I gave up my soccer team because we can't afford both. When she needed a new laptop for high school, I worked extra shifts at the local diner to help pay for it, despite needing one myself for college applications. The pattern was set early: Selena, the responsible one; Amber, the special one who deserved everything. "Selena, you're so mature for your age." My mother would say, not as a compliment, but as justification for expecting more from me. "Your sister isn't as strong as you are." This became the family mantra, the reason I was expected to sacrifice while Amber was allowed to take. My father wasn't much better. A sales manager with a comfortable income, he'd lavish gifts on Amber, while telling me I needed to learn the value of hard work. By 16, I was working part-time, maintaining straight A's, and cooking dinner 3 nights a week. Meanwhile, Amber's only responsibility was to focus on being a teenager. The inequality was glaring, but I accepted it as normal. What else could I do? I escaped to State University with a partial scholarship and worked 20 hours weekly to cover the rest. That's where I met Mark during my sophomore year. He was charming, attentive, and seemed to value me in ways my family never had. After a whirlwind romance, we married when I was 24, right after graduation. The first 6 months were wonderful. Then Mark began to change. Small criticisms evolved into controlling behavior. My clothes were too revealing or too dowdy. My cooking was bland or trying too hard. Nothing I did was ever right. I recognized the pattern from my childhood, but I was determined to make it work. When I discovered I was pregnant 2 years into our marriage, Mark was furious. He claimed we weren't ready financially, though he'd just bought himself a new motorcycle. The truth was, he wasn't ready to share attention. Throughout the pregnancy, his emotional distance grew. He attended only one doctor's appointment and missed our baby shower entirely, claiming work emergencies. Jordan was born healthy and perfect on a Tuesday morning in April. Mark held him briefly, looking uncomfortable, then left to get some air, his air getting stretched from hours to days. By the time Jordan was 2, Mark's appearances at home were rare and unpredictable. Then one day, after a particularly heated argument about his absence, he packed a bag. "I never wanted this life," he said flatly. "I'm not cut out to be a father." Just like that, he was gone. No child support, no visits, nothing. I filed for divorce, and he didn't even contest it. Jordan and I were on our own. I threw myself into providing for my son, working as a bank teller during the day and doing bookkeeping for local businesses at night. Eventually, I earned my financial consultant certification and secured a position with a reputable firm. The hours were long, but the pay was steady, and we managed to create a modest but loving home in a small 2-bedroom apartment. Throughout those early years, my family's support was minimal. My parents would occasionally watch Jordan for an afternoon, but always with conditions and complaints. "We're too old to be raising another child," my mother would say, though they regularly took Amber's children for entire weekends. When I needed help with unexpected expenses, the answer was usually, "We're a little tight this month." Yet they somehow funded Amber's spontaneous trip to Cancun after her first divorce. Despite all this, I maintained the relationship, believing Jordan deserved grandparents in his life. I continued the pattern of helping them whenever they asked, contributing to family gifts, loaning money for emergencies, and being the on-call problem solver. I was the bank they never had to repay, the shoulder always available to cry on, the safety net that never tore. When Jordan turned 6, he began showing signs of fatigue and recurrent unexplained fevers. Several doctor visits and tests later, we received the diagnosis a rare kidney condition that would require ongoing treatment and possibly surgery. I was devastated, but determined to give him the best care possible. My insurance covered most expenses, but the copay special diet and time off work created significant financial strain. When I mentioned this to my parents, hoping for some emotional support, if nothing else, my mother changed the subject to Amber's new job. She's under so much pressure. Mom sighed. Her boss expects her to work until 6 sometimes. I bit my tongue thinking of the midnight hours I'd spent finishing client work after getting Jordan to sleep. The comparison was pointless. In their eyes, Amber's minor inconveniences would always outweigh my struggles. By Jordan's 8th birthday, his condition had deteriorated. His specialist recommended surgery to prevent permanent damage. The procedure was risky, but necessary. When I shared the news with my family during Sunday dinner, there was a moment of silence before my father asked if my insurance would cover it. Not if Jordan would be okay, not how they could help. The cost was their first concern. Still, as the surgery date approached, they promised to be there. "Of course we'll come to the hospital," my mother assured me. "We're family. That's what family does." For once, I believed them. Dr. Rivera explained the procedure in detail 3 weeks before the scheduled date. He was a top pediatric surgeon, his confidence reassuring as he outlined what would happen. "We'll need to remove the damaged tissue and reconstruct part of the kidney," he said, using a model to demonstrate. "It's complex, but Jordan is young and otherwise healthy. His recovery chances are excellent." Jordan sat beside me, nodding seriously at the doctor's explanations. At 9, he understood more than I wished he had to. His bravery made my heart ache. "Will it hurt a lot?" he asked. "You'll be asleep during the surgery," Dr. Rivera assured him, "and we have good medicine to help with pain afterward." Jordan nodded again. "I just want to feel better." Later that night, as I tucked him into bed, he whispered, "I'm scared, Mom." "I know, sweetheart," I said, smoothing his hair. "But I'll be there the whole time, and the doctors are the best at what they do." "Will Grandma and Grandpa come too?" "They said they would," I answered, hoping it wasn't another broken promise. I'd arranged to take 2 weeks off work using all my vacation days and some unpaid leave. My supervisor, Diane, was understanding, even organizing a collection among coworkers to help with expenses. Their kindness was unexpected and touching. The week before surgery, I called my parents daily with updates. They sounded interested, asking appropriate questions about the procedure and recovery. My sister Amber even sent a text saying she'd be there for moral support. For once, it seemed my family was stepping up. I spent the days leading up to surgery preparing our apartment for Jordan's recovery, creating a comfortable space in the living room, where he could rest without climbing stairs. I stocked the freezer with his favorite foods, arranged for his schoolwork to be sent home, and packed a hospital bag with his comfort items, his worn blue dinosaur plush headphones, and the quilt his kindergarten teacher had made when he was first diagnosed. The night before surgery, Jordan was quieter than usual. We watched his favorite superhero movie, and I let him stay up late knowing sleep would be difficult. "Grandma and Grandpa are coming tomorrow, right?" he asked again, as I tucked him in. "They said they would," I repeated, hating the uncertainty in my voice. "And Aunt Amber?" "She said so too." He nodded, seeming satisfied. "That's good. Then you won't be alone." His concern for me, rather than himself, brought tears to my eyes that I quickly blinked away. "Get some sleep, buddy. Big day tomorrow." I called my parents one last time before bed. The call went to voicemail. I left a message reminding them of the hospital address and surgery time. Then I texted both them and Amber with the same information. Amber replied with a thumbs up emoji. My parents didn't respond. We woke before dawn. Jordan was quiet as he dressed in comfortable clothes. I made his favorite pancakes, though he only managed a few bites. The drive to the hospital was silent, his small hand gripping mine whenever I could spare one from the steering wheel. Check-in was efficient, but surreal. The nurse fitted Jordan with an ID bracelet and led us to the pediatric surgical ward. Another nurse took his vitals and started an IV line. Jordan winced, but didn't cry. I kept checking my phone, no messages. I called my mother as Jordan changed into a hospital gown. She answered on the 4th ring. "We're running late," she said immediately. "The car's making a strange noise. Your father's checking it now." "The surgery's in an hour," I said, trying to keep panic from my voice. "We'll try to make it." She replied vaguely. How's Jordan? Scared. He keeps asking if you'll be here. Tell him we're on our way, she said before hanging up. Amber texted 10 minutes later. Emergency meeting at work, can't get out of it, send Jordan hugs. When the surgical team came to take Jordan, I was still alone. The anesthesiologist explained what would happen, and a kind-eyed nurse assured me the waiting room was just down the hall. Your family can find you there, she said sympathetically. Jordan looked small and vulnerable on the gurney. I kissed his forehead, breathing in his familiar scent. The doctors will take good care of you, I whispered. I'll be waiting when you wake up. Did Grandma and Grandpa come? He asked sleepily as the pre-surgical medication took effect. I couldn't bear to disappoint him. They send their love, everyone does. His eyes closed as they wheeled him away, leaving me standing alone in the suddenly quiet hallway. The waiting room was half full with other families. An elderly couple held hands tightly. A large family group spoke in hushed Spanish, occasionally breaking into supportive hugs. A young couple with red-rimmed eyes leaned against each other. Everyone had someone, except me. I sat in a corner chair, still checking my phone every few minutes. No messages, no calls. I tried my parents again, straight to voicemail. Hours crawled by. The elderly couple received good news and left smiling. The Spanish-speaking family gathered around a doctor, their relieved laughter filling the room. People came and went. I remained alone with my growing anger and fear. At hour 6, a nurse brought me coffee. Any word on when your people are coming? She asked kindly. I shook my head, unable to speak around the lump in my throat. At hour 7, Dr. Rivera appeared in the doorway, still wearing his surgical cap. My heart stopped as he approached with a serious expression. I stood on shaky legs. Jordan did very well, he said, and I nearly collapsed with relief. The procedure was successful, though we found more damage than the scans showed. There were some complications with his blood pressure during surgery, but we managed it. He's in recovery now. Complications. I repeated the word sticking in my throat. We'll monitor him closely, but I'm optimistic, he assured me. He's a strong boy. I was allowed to see Jordan an hour later. He was pale against the white hospital sheets connected to monitors and an IV. His eyes fluttered open briefly when I held his hand, but closed again almost immediately. I sat beside his bed as evening turned to night. No family arrived. No one called to check on his condition. I finally sent a group text. Surgery successful, but with complications. Jordan in recovery. My mother responded with, glad to hear it. Keep us posted. Amber sent another thumbs-up emoji. When Jordan was fully settled in his room, I finally allowed myself to cry, silent tears falling as I held his small hand alone in the dim hospital room, with only the steady beep of monitors for company. The harsh fluorescent lighting accentuated Jordan's pallor as dawn broke on his first post-surgery day. His eyes opened slowly, confusion giving way to pain as anesthesia's merciful fog lifted. Mom. His voice was raspy from the breathing tube. I'm here, sweetie. I squeezed his hand gently, trying to mask my exhaustion after a sleepless night in the uncomfortable bedside chair. How are you feeling? Hurts, he mumbled, tears welling in his eyes. I pressed the call button, and a nurse appeared promptly to administer pain medication. As relief gradually relaxed his features, Jordan glanced around the room. Did Grandma and Grandpa come while I was asleep? My heart twisted. Not yet, honey. They had some car trouble yesterday. He nodded slightly, accepting my explanation without question. His unquestioning trust made the reality even more painful. The morning passed in a blur of doctor visits, medication schedules, and helping Jordan with small sips of water. By noon, he was more alert, but clearly uncomfortable. The incision site throbbed despite the pain medication, and he couldn't find a position that didn't hurt. My phone remained silent except for work emails expressing support. Around 2 o'clock, Taylor arrived with a duffel bag of supplies, clean clothes for me, Jordan's favorite books, homemade cookies for later, and a charging cable for my dying phone. You look terrible, she said bluntly, hugging me tightly. Taylor had been my friend since college orientation, one of the few relationships I'd maintained despite my busy life. Thanks, I said dryly, though her familiar honesty was comforting. She stayed for an hour chatting with Jordan about his favorite video games, while I took a much-needed shower in the small hospital bathroom. Before leaving, she pulled me into the hallway. "Your family still hasn't shown up," she asked incredulously. "Not even a proper phone call," I confirmed. "That's beyond messed up, Selena. Even for them." Her expression darkened. "Do you want me to call and give them a piece of my mind?" "No," I sighed. "It would just make things more complicated." "Well, I'm coming back tomorrow," she stated firmly. "And I've got a rotation of friends bringing dinner to your apartment for when you're discharged. You shouldn't have to worry about cooking." Her kindness brought fresh tears. "Thank you." After Taylor left, Jordan asked again about his grandparents. I made more excuses. They were coming tomorrow. They had sent gifts that must have been delayed. They called when he was sleeping. The lies tasted bitter, but I couldn't bear to add disappointment to his physical pain. That evening, as we watched cartoons on the small hospital TV, Jordan drifted in and out of sleep. During a coherent moment, he looked at me seriously. "Mom, are Grandma and Grandpa mad at me?" "What? No, sweetie, of course not," I assured him quickly. "Why would you think that?" "Because they don't visit me like Mason's grandparents visit him when he's sick." Mason was his best friend, whose grandparents regularly drove 6 hours just for weekend visits. "Every family is different," I said weakly. "They care about you. They just show it differently." His acceptance of my explanation was worse than any questioning would have been. He simply nodded and turned back to the cartoon. The matter settled in his 9-year-old mind. I fought back tears, wondering how many more excuses I could make before he saw through them. The second day post-surgery brought a frightening setback. Jordan woke with a high fever, his cheeks flushed against his otherwise pale face. The nurse called Dr. Rivera immediately. "We need to run some tests," he explained after examining Jordan. Fever could indicate infection or rejection issues. The next hours were terrifying. Jordan was wheeled away for blood work and scans, while I paced the small room alternating between prayer and quiet panic. I sent my family an urgent update. "Jordan has fever. Doctors concerned about infection. Please call me." My mother texted back, "Keeping him in our thoughts. Let us know what the doctors say." No call, no offer to come, just platitudes that required minimal effort. By evening, Jordan's test results showed a mild infection rather than rejection. He was started on antibiotics, and his fever began to respond. Relief washed over me as Dr. Rivera assured me they'd caught it early. "He'll be uncomfortable for a day or two, but this shouldn't delay his recovery significantly," he explained. That night, as Jordan's fever finally broke, my sister Amber called. My heart leapt with hope that finally someone was properly checking on Jordan. "Hey, Selena," she said cheerfully. "How's everything going?" "Better now," I replied. "Jordan had a fever scare, but the antibiotics are working." "That's great," she said, her tone suggesting she'd already moved on from the topic. "Listen, I'm calling about my engagement party next month. We've booked that vineyard on the lake for the celebration." I waited for her to ask more about Jordan. She didn't. "That sounds nice," I said flatly. "It's costing a fortune," she continued. "But Jake's parents are splitting it with Mom and Dad. Speaking of which, are you coming? I need a final head count." I looked at Jordan sleeping restlessly in his hospital bed. "I don't know, Amber. Jordan might not be up for a party so soon after surgery." "Oh," her disappointment was clear. "Well, you could leave him with a sitter, right? It's just one afternoon." The suggestion that I would leave my recovering child with a sitter to attend her party stunned me into silence. "Anyway," she continued, filling the awkward pause, "the wedding planning is already insane. You wouldn't believe what venues are charging these days." She launched into a detailed breakdown of wedding costs, while I half listened, watching Jordan's chest rise and fall. After several minutes of wedding talk without a single question about her nephew's condition, I interrupted. "Amber, I need to go. Jordan's nurse is here." It was a lie, but I couldn't bear another moment of her self-absorption. We said goodbye, and I sat in the growing darkness, a new heaviness settling over me. By the third day, Jordan was showing clear improvement. His pain was more manageable, and he managed to eat some Jell-O for breakfast. Dr. Rivera was pleased with his progress during morning rounds. "If he continues improving, you can take him home tomorrow," he said. Jordan's face lit up at this news. Really, I can go home, as long as you promise to rest and take your medicine. The doctor smiled. I promise, Jordan said eagerly. The prospect of returning home energized both of us. I spent the afternoon making lists of what we'd need and coordinating with Taylor about picking up prescriptions. Jordan chatted more than he had since the surgery, making plans for movie marathons on our living room couch. For the first time in days, I felt genuine optimism. We would get through this. Jordan would recover. We would be okay with or without my family's support. That evening, as we shared the hospital's poor excuse for spaghetti dinner, my phone buzzed with a new text message. Seeing my mother's name, I opened it hoping for an inquiry about Jordan's improved condition. Instead, the message read, "Amber found her dream wedding dress today. It's 10,000 and perfect for her. We're a little short with all the deposits for the venue and caterer. Can you transfer the money to help? It's a once-in-a-lifetime event for your sister." I stared at the screen, certain I had misunderstood. There was no mention of Jordan, no question about his health, just a demand for $10,000 for a dress when they couldn't be bothered to visit their grandson in the hospital. Before I could respond, another text arrived. "Family has to stick together. Your sister would do the same for you." The irony of that statement as I sat alone in a hospital room with my recovering child was the final straw. Something inside me, something that had been bending for decades, finally broke. I must have gasped audibly because Jordan looked up from his dinner with concern. "What's wrong, Mom? Is everything okay?" I forced a smile, placing my phone screen down on the small table. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just a work message. Is it Grandma? Are they coming tomorrow when I go home?" His hopeful expression was almost my undoing. "Let's finish dinner, then we can watch that new cartoon you like." I deflected, unable to tell him the truth. Jordan seemed satisfied with this and returned to picking at his spaghetti. Once he was distracted by the TV, I stepped into the hallway, clutching my phone like it might bite me. Rereading my mother's messages, a lifetime of similar expectations flashed through my mind. The $300 I'd contributed to my father's birthday cruise while working minimum wage. The $2,000 loan for Amber's car repairs that was never repaid. The countless times I'd covered family dinner bills because I had that good job in finance. The emergency credit card I'd given them that somehow always hit its limit on non-emergencies. Every single time I'd convinced myself it was temporary, that eventually they'd recognize my needs too, that someday when I really needed them, they'd be there. But they hadn't even shown up for their grandson's surgery, and now they wanted $10,000 for a wedding dress. When Jordan's medical bills were piling up, when I'd just taken unpaid leave to be with him in the hospital, the audacity was breathtaking. I began to shake not with sadness, but with rage, a profound anger that had been building for decades. A hospital security guard passing by noticed my distress. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he asked, his hand hovering near his radio. "Yes," I managed. "Just family issues." He nodded sympathetically. "Those can be the hardest. My sister didn't speak to me for 3 years after our mother's funeral. Sometimes you've got to put yourself first, you know." His casual wisdom struck a chord. Put myself first. Had I ever really done that, I thanked him and returned to Jordan's room with newfound clarity. My son was watching cartoons, giggling despite his discomfort. This beautiful boy who never complained, who accepted every excuse I made for his absent family, who deserved so much better. After he fell asleep, I sat in the dim light, my decision crystallizing. I opened my banking app and transferred exactly $1 to my mother's account. In the memo field, I wrote, "Buy a veil." Then I did something I'd never done before. I called my bank's 24-hour line and requested all family access to my accounts be frozen immediately. I'd added my parents as authorized users years ago when they claimed they needed emergency access. That access had resulted in numerous emergencies: new tires, vacation deposits, designer purses. "I'd like to remove all authorized users from my accounts," I told the customer service representative, "and I'd like to add additional security verification for any transactions." "We can certainly do that," she assured me. "The changes will take effect immediately." After hanging up, I blocked both my mother's and sister's numbers. Not permanently, just until I could trust myself to respond from strength rather than habit. The relief was immediate and physical, like setting down a heavy burden I'd carried so long, I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. I looked at Jordan peaceful in sleep despite the tubes and monitors. Things are going to be different, I whispered a promise to both of us. For the first time since the surgery, I slept deeply, waking only when the night nurse came to check Jordan's vitals. Even then, I fell back asleep quickly, untroubled by the guilt that usually accompanied any act of self-preservation. The next morning, Jordan noticed the change immediately. "You look happy, Mom," he observed as I helped him sit up for breakfast. "I am happy," I replied truthfully. "The doctor says we can go home today and you're getting better every hour." "And we can watch movies all day," he confirmed. "All the movies you want," I promised, ruffling his hair gently. The change wasn't just in my mood, but in my entire being. For the first time in memory, I felt unburdened by obligation, free to focus solely on what mattered most: my son's recovery and our happiness. I knew there would be fallout from my actions, but in that moment, I welcomed it. The time for endless accommodation was over. Whatever came next, Jordan and I would face it together, without the weight of toxic expectations dragging us down. The hospital discharge process took longer than expected. Rivera provided detailed aftercare instructions, while a nurse reviewed Jordan's medication schedule. Finally, around noon, we were cleared to leave. Jordan, though tired and sore, couldn't hide his excitement about going home. "Can we stop for milkshakes?" he asked as I helped him into a wheelchair. "Absolutely," I agreed, grateful for his improving appetite. A nurse accompanied us to the hospital entrance, where Taylor waited in her car. She'd offered to drive us home, knowing I'd be focused on Jordan's comfort. "The chariot awaits," she announced cheerfully, opening the back door where she'd arranged pillows for Jordan. The drive home included the promised milkshake stop, with Jordan managing a few sips of his chocolate favorite. Arriving at our apartment, we discovered our neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, waiting with a casserole dish. "For dinner," she explained, helping us inside. "My grandson had surgery last year, so I know how it goes. There's another one in your freezer for tomorrow." The kindness of relative strangers compared to my family's absence wasn't lost on me. We settled Jordan in his new recovery space. Our living room couch transformed with pillows, blankets, and easy access to entertainment. Mrs. Jenkins stayed until he was comfortable, then quietly departed with promises to check in tomorrow. "Your grandmother called while you were in the bathroom," I lied when Jordan inevitably asked. "She sends her love and hopes you feel better soon." The falsehood came easily, one more in a long series of protective fabrications. Jordan accepted it with a nod, but added, "It's okay if they're busy, Mom. We've got each other." His maturity broke my heart. At 9, he was already learning to lower his expectations of people who should have moved mountains to be there for him. That night, after settling Jordan with his medication and favorite stuffed dinosaur, I checked my phone for the first time in hours. The screen was flooded with notifications: 15 missed calls from my mother, 7 from my father, 12 from Amber, and multiple voicemails from each. I listened to the first from my mother. "Selena, what is the meaning of this $1, some kind of joke? Call me immediately." The second was angrier. "Your sister is in tears. After everything we've done for you and Jordan, you can't just ignore us like this." My father's message was more controlled but equally manipulative. "Your mother is very upset. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but it needs to stop. Family comes first, Selena. You know that." Amber's message was simply, "Way to ruin everything as usual. Mom and Dad are furious. Fix this." I deleted the rest without listening. Their reaction was exactly what I'd expected. Anger, manipulation, guilt-tripping. No concern for Jordan. No acknowledgement of their absence during his surgery. Just outrage that I'd finally said no. The following morning, I woke to a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Mr. Patterson, the manager at my bank branch. "Ms. Williams, I wanted to let you know there's been activity on your accounts I thought you should be aware of," he began formally. "Yesterday evening, someone attempted to withdraw $5,000 using the authorized user access. When that was declined due to your recent security changes, they attempted again with smaller amounts." "Let me guess," I said, unsurprised. "Margaret Williams?" "Yes," he confirmed. "Your mother. Given your recent security changes and the unusual activity, I wanted to confirm this wasn't authorized. It absolutely was not, I stated firmly. Thank you for calling. Of course. We've flagged the account for additional monitoring, he assured me. Is there anything else you need? No, that's perfect. I appreciate you looking out for me. After hanging up, I felt a strange calm. They had actually tried to take money from my account without permission, proving my decision had been not just justified, but necessary. Jordan was still sleeping, the medication making him drowsy. I used the quiet morning to address work emails and organize his medication schedule when a forceful knock interrupted the silence. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing in the hallway, arms crossed, expression thunderous. I contemplated not answering, but decided it was time to face this directly. Jordan was asleep in his bedroom, having moved there temporarily while I changed his bedding in the living room. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Mom, this is a surprise. Don't play innocent, she hissed, attempting to push past me. What do you think you're doing? The bank wouldn't give me access to the emergency funds. They're not emergency funds, I corrected calmly. They're my funds. And there is no emergency except my son recovering from major surgery, which apparently wasn't important enough for you to visit. Her face flushed. We explained about the car trouble, and we've been so busy helping with Amber's wedding plans. You know how important this is to her. More important than Jordan's surgery, I challenged. She waved dismissively. He has you. Amber needs all of us right now. The casual cruelty of her statement stunned me momentarily. When I found my voice, it was steadier than I expected. Jordan needed all of us too. He asked for you every day in the hospital. I made excuses for you. I lied to protect his feelings. Don't be so dramatic, she scoffed. Children are resilient. Now about that money for the dress, no. The word hung between us, simple but powerful. Excuse me? She seemed genuinely shocked. No, I repeated. I'm not giving you $10,000 for Amber's wedding dress. I'm not giving you 10 cents, not anymore. Not. After everything we've done for you, she sputtered. What exactly have you done for me, Mom, or for Jordan? Name one time you've put our needs before Amber's wants. She opened her mouth, then closed it, clearly struggling to find an example. That's what I thought, I continued. I'm done being the family ATM. I'm done making excuses for your absence. I'm done pretending we're important to you. You can't just cut us off. Her voice rose dangerously. We're family. Family shows up, I replied simply. Family cares. Family doesn't try to drain my bank account while my son recovers from surgery. Your father will hear about this, she threatened. I'm sure he will. And when he calls, I'll tell him the same thing. Now please leave. Jordan needs to rest without disturbance. This isn't over, she warned, but retreated toward the elevator. Actually, it is, I said quietly, closing the door on her protests. I leaned against the door, heart pounding, but spirit lighter than it had been in years. When I turned around, Jordan was standing in the hallway, pale but steady. Was that Grandma? He asked. Yes, honey, I'm sorry if we woke you. I heard you tell her no. His expression was difficult to read. I did, I admitted, wondering how much he'd overheard. Good, he said simply. She wasn't very nice. Out of the mouths of babes. I crossed to him and gently guided him back to the couch. How about we watch that new superhero movie you've been wanting to see? Can we have popcorn? He asked hopefully. Small portion, I agreed. Doctor's orders. As we settled in with our snack, I knew the confrontation with my mother was just the beginning. But for the first time, I was ready for whatever came next. The aftermath of my confrontation with my mother rippled through the next 2 weeks. My father called that same evening, his voice tight with controlled anger. Your mother is very upset, he began without preamble. I imagine she is, I replied calmly. How's Jordan doing, by the way? You know your grandson who just had major surgery. The pointed question created an awkward pause. We've been meaning to visit, he said finally. Things have been hectic with Amber's wedding plans. More important than Jordan's health. Another pause. That's not fair, Selena. We can care about both. But you don't, Dad. Not equally. Never equally. I could almost hear him shifting uncomfortably. About this money situation. There is no money situation, I interrupted. I'm not contributing to Amber's wedding expenses. I'm focused on my son's medical bills and recovery. That's my priority, just like Amber is yours. We're family. He tried echoing my mother's earlier sentiment. We need to stick together. That works both ways, Dad. Where were you when Jordan needed his family to stick together for him? He had no answer to that. After an uncomfortable silence, he switched tactics. Your sister is devastated. She was counting on that contribution. Then she should adjust her expectations or find a dress within her actual budget, I suggested reasonably. That's what most people do. This isn't like you, Selena, he said, disapproval evident. You've always been the reliable one. Yes, I agreed. And I'm tired of being taken advantage of because of it. I've made my decision. The conversation ended with his warning that I would regret damaging family relationships over something so trivial. The irony that he considered my boundary trivial while his grandson's surgery was apparently not worth his time was not lost on me. Amber's approach was different. Her barrage of texts alternated between guilt-tripping, "I always thought you'd be happy for me" accusations, "You're just jealous because your marriage failed," and attempts at manipulation, "I was going to ask you to be maid of honor, but now I don't know." I responded to none of them, focusing instead on Jordan's recovery. Each day brought small improvements: less pain, more energy, better appetite. We established a routine of gentle walks around the apartment, movie marathons, and board games. His resilience amazed me. What surprised me most during those weeks was the support that emerged from unexpected places. Taylor organized a meal train with our friends and coworkers, ensuring fresh dinners appeared at our door daily. Jordan's teacher arranged video calls with his classmates, who showed off a giant get well card they'd made. My supervisor, Diane, stopped by with work I could do from home and assurances that my job was secure. Family isn't always blood, Taylor observed one evening as she helped me change Jordan's bandages. Sometimes it's the people who show up when it matters. Her words resonated deeply. While my biological family was sending angry messages about a wedding dress, these friends, some I barely knew beyond professional relationships, were providing genuine support without expectation. One afternoon during Jordan's nap, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. It was Patricia, my father's sister, whom I rarely saw due to a long-standing feud between her and my mother. "Selena, it's your Aunt Patricia. I hope you don't mind me calling." "Not at all," I said, surprised but pleased. "How did you get my number?" "Your father mentioned you've been—" She hesitated. "Difficult about Amber's wedding. Knowing your parents, I thought I should hear your side." Her unexpected alliance brought tears to my eyes. I explained the situation: Jordan's surgery, my family's absence, the demand for money afterward. "That sounds exactly like Margaret," she sighed. "And unfortunately like my brother too. They've always enabled Amber's entitlement." "I thought it was just me," I admitted, "that I was overreacting or being difficult." "No, sweetheart, this pattern goes back generations in our family. My parents did the same to your father and me. I was always expected to sacrifice while Daniel got everything handed to him." Her validation was healing in a way I hadn't anticipated. She shared stories of similar dynamics when we were children, incidents I'd been too young to understand at the time. The conversation shifted something fundamental in my perception. I wasn't crazy or selfish. The inequality had been real and deliberate. "I should have spoken up sooner," Patricia said regretfully. "Maybe I could have protected you from some of this. But I'm here now if you'll let me be." We spoke for almost an hour, ending with her promise to visit once Jordan was feeling stronger. For the first time in my life, I felt a genuine family connection based on mutual respect rather than obligation. That evening, as Jordan and I shared dinner on the couch, he seemed thoughtful. "Mom, are Grandma and Grandpa ever going to visit?" I put down my fork, deciding honesty was overdue. "I don't know, sweetheart. They're very busy with Aunt Amber's wedding." More important than me being sick? His directness was heartbreaking. "Nothing is more important than you," I assured him. "Nothing. But sometimes people make choices that don't make sense to us." He nodded slowly. "Like when Mason's dad promised to come to his baseball game, but went fishing instead." "Something like that," I agreed, amazed by his insight. "That's sad," he concluded simply. Then after a moment, "But we're okay without them, right, Mom?" We've got each other. I hugged him gently, mindful of his incision. We've got each other. And Taylor and Mrs. Jenkins and your friends at school. We have lots of people who love us. And now Aunt Patricia, too, he added, having overheard parts of our earlier conversation. She sounds nice. She is. I agreed. Very nice. As Jordan drifted to sleep that night, I realized I felt lighter than I had in years. The constant anxiety of trying to please my parents, the guilt when I inevitably fell short, the resentment I tried to suppress, all were fading, replaced by a newfound confidence in my decisions. The final surprise of those 2 weeks came in the form of an unexpected advocate. Mrs. Jenkins, our neighbor, who had been so helpful during Jordan's recovery, stopped by with homemade cookies and news. I ran into your mother at the grocery store, she announced without preamble. She was telling everyone who would listen about her ungrateful daughter, who wouldn't help with her sister's wedding. My stomach dropped. Mrs. Jenkins, I'm so sorry. She held up a hand. Don't you dare apologize. I set her straight right there in the produce section. Told her exactly what kind of grandmother ignores her grandson's surgery, then has the nerve to ask for money. The whole store heard it. My mouth fell open in shock. Mrs. Jenkins, with her cardigan sweaters and cookie deliveries, had publicly defended me against my own mother. You didn't have to do that, I said, touched beyond words. Yes, I did, she insisted firmly. Some people need to hear the truth, especially when they're so good at avoiding it themselves. As she left cookies in hand, I realized something profound had shifted, not just in my relationships with others, but in how I viewed myself. For too long, I'd accepted the role assigned to me by my family, the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who always said yes. Now I was becoming something new, the one who could say no when necessary, the one who put her child first, the one who expected reciprocity in relationships. And somehow, miraculously, the world hadn't ended. In fact, it felt like it was finally beginning. And you're sure you're feeling okay? I asked for the third time as Jordan prepared for his follow-up appointment with Dr. Rivera 6 months after surgery. Mom, I'm fine, he assured me, tying his own shoes, a small victory he was particularly proud of. Dr. Rivera said I'm healing perfectly. Indeed, Jordan's recovery had exceeded expectations. After the initial 6 weeks of careful monitoring and limited activity, he'd gradually returned to normal childhood pursuits. First walking, then gentle play, and finally, just last month, clearance to join his friends for non-contact sports. The scar on his abdomen was fading from angry red to pale pink, a battle mark he displayed with peculiar pride to his closest friends. Sorry for being overprotective. I smiled, ruffling his hair. Old habits. At least you're not as bad as Mrs. Jenkins, he joked. She still checks if I'm wearing a jacket when it's like 70 degrees. I laughed, grateful for our neighbor's continued support. Mrs. Jenkins had become a surrogate grandmother figure, dropping by with homemade treats and offering to watch Jordan when I needed to work late. Her genuine care contrasted sharply with my parents' token efforts at reconciliation. The 6 months since my stance against family financial exploitation had been transformative. After my initial boundary setting, my parents had cycled through predictable stages of response, anger manipulation, flying monkeys, relatives calling to reason with me, and finally grudging acceptance that things had changed. My mother's approach had shifted from outright hostility to passive-aggressive martyrdom. We're managing Amber's wedding without your help, though it's very difficult, she'd say during our now monthly phone calls. But we understand you have your priorities. The thinly veiled guilt trips no longer affected me. I'd established clear conditions for our continued relationship: acknowledgement of their neglect during Jordan's surgery, respect for my financial boundaries, and equal treatment of Jordan compared to Amber's children. While they hadn't fully embraced these conditions, they'd at least stopped openly violating them. My father had adapted more quickly, perhaps influenced by conversations with his sister Patricia. During a surprisingly candid moment, 3 months after our confrontation, he'd admitted, "We should have been there for Jordan's surgery. That wasn't right." It wasn't a complete apology, but it was progress. He'd even attended Jordan's school science fair last month, watching with genuine pride as his grandson explained his project on kidney function, inspired by his own medical journey. Amber's wedding had proceeded with a dress that cost $2,000 instead of $10. Still beautiful, still special, just within actual budget constraints. I'd attended with Jordan as my plus one, maintaining polite distance while celebrating her happiness. The reduced expectations had actually improved our interactions, removing the constant pressure of her demands. My relationship with Aunt Patricia had blossomed into a meaningful connection. She'd become a regular visitor, bringing family stories and photos I'd never seen, filling gaps in my understanding of our shared history. Through her, I learned that my grandmother had treated my father much as he had treated me, creating a generational pattern I was now breaking. "You're doing what I wish I'd had the courage to do," Patricia told me once. "Setting boundaries doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you're teaching them how to love you properly." Financially, the changes had been dramatic. Without the constant drain of family emergencies, I'd established a robust college fund for Jordan. My recent promotion at work, partly due to my increased confidence and assertiveness, had allowed us to start saving for our own home, a dream that had seemed impossible when supporting two households. But the most profound changes were emotional. The constant background anxiety I'd carried for decades had lifted, replaced by a sense of agency and peace. I no longer flinched when my phone rang, no longer dreaded family gatherings, no longer measured my worth by others' approval. Dr. Rivera's office was bright and welcoming as we arrived for Jordan's appointment. The nurse who greeted us remembered us by name, commenting on how well Jordan looked compared to his hospital days. "Dr. Rivera will be so pleased with your progress," she smiled, taking his vitals. "Your numbers are excellent." The appointment confirmed what we already knew. Jordan was healing beautifully. Rivera examined the surgical site, reviewed his lab work, and declared him better than expected. "You've done everything right," he told me as Jordan dressed. "The nutrition plan, the medication schedule, the graduated activity. Textbook perfect care." His praise warmed me, acknowledgement of the countless hours of vigilance and worry. "We make a good team," I said, nodding toward Jordan. "The best," Dr. Rivera agreed. "And barring any unforeseen issues, I don't need to see you for 6 months. Just annual checkups from here if all continues well." On the drive home, Jordan was unusually quiet, staring out the window in contemplation. "Everything okay, buddy?" I asked, concerned by his silence. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I was just thinking, can we visit Grandma and Grandpa this weekend? I want to show them my science fair medal." His request surprised me. Since the surgery, he'd been cautious around my parents, sensing the tension despite my efforts to shield him from it. "Are you sure?" I asked carefully. "We don't have to if you're not comfortable." "I'm sure," he nodded. "They're trying, Mom. Grandpa came to my science fair, and Grandma sent that cool book about kidneys. It might be nice to visit on our terms." Out of the mouths of babes indeed, his wisdom continually astonished me. "On our terms," I agreed. "That's a great idea." We visited that weekend, staying for exactly the 2 hours I'd specified in advance. My mother had prepared Jordan's favorite cookies. My father had found a documentary about marine biology, Jordan's current obsession. They were trying in their imperfect way. And for Jordan's sake, I was meeting them halfway. When we left, my father walked us to the car while my mother cleared the snack dishes. "He's looking good," he commented, watching Jordan climb into the back seat. "Strong." "He is," I agreed. "He's resilient." "Like his mother," my father said quietly. Our eyes met in rare understanding. "I'm still figuring it out," I admitted. "This new way of being family." "Me too." He nodded. "But I think it's better. Healthier." It wasn't a dramatic reconciliation. There was no tearful group hug or profound apology. Just a small acknowledgement that we were finding a new path forward, one based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. As we drove away, Jordan asked, "Did that feel okay, Mom? Visiting them?" "It did." I realized with some surprise. It felt balanced. "Good." He nodded decisively. "Because I think families should be balanced, like ecosystems in science class. Everybody has to give and take the right amount or the whole thing falls apart." I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. this old soul in a child's body. When did you get so wise? He shrugged, already distracted by a game on his tablet. Probably when I got a super kidney. I laughed, turning toward home. Our real home, the one we'd built together with boundaries that protected us and love that sustained us. The journey from doormat to self-respect had been painful but necessary. I'd learned that sometimes standing alone is better than being surrounded by toxic expectations. That true family is defined by love and support, not DNA. That saying no can be the most powerful yes to yourself. As I drove, I realized I no longer felt anger toward my parents, just a calm determination to maintain the healthy boundaries I'd established. The resentment that had festered for decades had gradually dissolved, replaced by something closer to acceptance. They were who they were. I couldn't change them, but I could change how I responded to them. For Jordan's sake and my own, I'd broken a generational cycle of inequality and exploitation. The path forward wasn't perfect or easy, but it was authentically ours. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between family expectations and your own well-being? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Like and subscribe if this journey resonated with you, and share with someone who might need permission to set their own boundaries. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do is simply say no to what doesn't serve us, and yes to our own worth. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you deserve to be valued, not just used.